Hey everybody, welcome to Home with the Halsteads. Today I'm going to be making a Sunday morning coffee cake, and that's what it's called, so that's what I'm telling you that it is. It's simple, quick, and easy. I've been going through some old vintage recipes, books. This one happened to belong to my mother. It's the Pilot Club cookbook, and y'all, this is an old one. I tried to look for a date in it, and I can't find a date, but it is so old. It has 900 favorite cake recipes. So this morning, I decided that the weather calls for a nice coffee cake. So I'm going to make one, and I invite you to stay with me and let's do it together. I have done some prep work before we get started making our coffee cake this morning. So let me tell you what I've done. The first thing I did was to check to make sure I had all of my ingredients in my pantry and my refrigerator. Very, very important before you make any recipe. The second thing I did, I prepared my pan that I'm going to be baking our coffee cake in. I'm using a 9-inch round cake pan. I lined it with parchment paper and I sprayed the edges with Baker's Joy. So that's ready when we get our batter made and our topping made. The next thing I did was preheat my oven to 350 degrees. Then I sifted my dry ingredients together. Our recipe calls for 1 cup of all-purpose flour, which is plain flour. It called for 2 teaspoons of baking powder. 2 teaspoons of baking powder and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. Now let me get my old vintage recipe here and make sure. Okay, so 1 cup of flour, 2 teaspoons of baking powder, and 1/2 teaspoon of salt. It's been a while since I've made this, so I want to make sure that I'm telling you the right ingredients. So now we're ready to get started. I'll be using my hand mixer, and we're starting out with 1 egg. And of course, I let this egg come to room temperature. So I'm just going to beat that real quickly. Just beating it up really well. To the egg, I'm adding 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar. 1/2 cup of white granulated sugar. So we'll just turn our little bowl around, mix our sugar. To the egg and sugar, I'm adding 1/2 cup of whole milk. 1/2 cup of whole milk. And again, I'm just using my electric mixer. I'm just using a small bowl this morning to mix this in. I think it's large enough. And next, I'm going to add 2 tablespoons of butter. And I do not want to turn this over, so I'm just going to hold it just like that. But I need both hands because I want to get all of this good butter out of this little dish that I have here. So I'm just raking it out. 2 tablespoons of butter, and I'm going to mix that. This is so quick and easy, so quick and easy. Now we're ready to add our dry ingredients. Remember, this is 1 cup of all-purpose flour, baking powder, and salt. So I'm just mixing this around the edges. We'll add a little bit more. And then I'm just going to take the pan and kind of pour it in here like this. I'll just pour it all. Just mixing it up. I'm going to share this morning with some friends. I know just the perfect person that I want to share this with. And they will be so happy to receive it. I know they will. Okay, I'm going to stop my mixer, rake down the little flour that's collected on the sides of the bowl so that there won't be any dry ingredients in the batter. Just mix this up really well. And I'm going to give it one more swirl with my electric mixer. And there we have that. Sometimes you feel like you need 4 hands. Have you ever felt that way? I certainly have. So now we're just pouring our batter into our baking pan, our cake pan. That's what we're using this morning, is this nice cake pan that I have here. You could use an 8x8 by 2 inch tall baking pan. If you have one of those, that would work. But you just want to use kind of a small cake pan or baking pan, because this doesn't make a really large coffee cake. I believe that it serves 6, and that would be nice size servings. So we're just placing our batter, or we have placed our batter in our pan, and now we are ready to make a topping, a delicious topping to go on top of it. So let's get started doing that. Now that we have our batter made, we're ready to make our topping. So we're starting out with 1/4 cup of light brown sugar. 1/4 cup light brown sugar. 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. Now some of you tell me that you don't care for cinnamon. So if you don't, you can leave it out. But cinnamon is a favorite. I'd call it a seasoning or flavoring. So anyway, I'm using cinnamon, 1 teaspoon of cinnamon. And we're using 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. And I sifted this and measured it. So it's 1 tablespoon of all-purpose flour. So we want to mix our dry ingredients together first. So I'm just taking a little fork here, trying to get all the little lumps out, mixing the cinnamon, sugar, and flour. Brown sugar, that is. And you can tell that because of the color. I have on a glove this morning. You know, when I work with little things like this, I like to wear a glove because I like to put my hands in it. It keeps the ingredients from getting under your nails, but it also doesn't stick to your hands, and you can just work with it so much easier. Now we're going to add 1 tablespoon of melted butter. And again, I'm using this little spatula here so that I can get all this good butter out of my little dish that I have here. I love these little dishes. I picked them up at Publix years ago, and I use them all the time. So now I'm just going to mix this around. I'll probably put my hands in it in just a second. In fact, I'll go ahead and do that. I can mix it faster and more thoroughly. Just want to get all that good sugar wet with that butter. So we're just mixing, mixing, mixing. Okay, you could add a 1/2 cup of pecans at this point, but I'm going to top mine. So now I'm going to bring back my cake batter. And what we want to do here, we want to just sprinkle this mixture brown sugar, cinnamon, and flour and butter mixture on top of the cake batter or coffee cake batter. We want to just evenly distribute it. And, you know, I tell you this all the time, and it's true. You're watching and you're saying, Joyce, you missed a spot over there. I do it because I watch other influencers too. And I'll say, put some over there. But you do want to evenly distribute it, as evenly as you can. So I'm just putting it here and there. Tell me where I need to put some more. This is going to be so, so good. Doug's going to love this too. He does love cinnamon. And for those of you who can eat cinnamon, it's really good for you. So I'm doing pretty good with even and leveling it out, or making it even, aren't I? I feel like I am. I'll just brag on myself a little bit this morning. How does that look? Does that look good? Okay. Now we're going to top it with a half a cup of chopped pecans. I like to keep pecans in my freezer. And I keep halves and I keep chopped pecans. And then when I get ready, I just have them. Buying pecans is really an investment. But I just go ahead and do that in the fall, and then I have them year round, and I have fresh pecans. I do like fresh pecans. And I try to use all that I have in my freezer during the course of 1 year so that they don't get stale and they have good oil in them. Would you say this is looking good? I wish you could see it. I wish you were here in the kitchen with me. That's what I really wish. I'm going to have a cooking party and invite some friends over. And all of y'all who live off, I wish you could be here too. Alrighty. There you have it. It's ready to go in the oven. We'll bake it on 350. I'll check it at 20 minutes. It may take a little bit longer, but when it gets done, I'll come back and we'll look at it together. Okay, our coffee cake baked for 25 minutes on 350, and it's ready to come out and cool. And doesn't it look delicious? Our coffee cake is done. It's ready to cut, and we're going to do that. We're just going to cut it just like this. It looks very good. Just going to cut me a big piece. Just take my little knife and lift it out. Look at that. Just going to put it right here on my plate. There's a pecan that dropped in the middle. I'm just going to eat that. Oh, y'all. That pecan is toasty. It is so good. I think I'll have some strawberries with mine this morning. Just put me 2 or 3 little strawberries on here like that. And y'all look, there's my breakfast. How sweet is that? I hope you'll try the recipe.